Hey pilots, DrainMan here, and today I have got a very special video. In today's video we are going to be building the Darwin FPV drone. This is a 3-inch toothpick drone, but there's one key factor. You don't just open the box, plug the battery in, and fly. This is not a PNP or a BNF. This is actually a DIY. This is your time to shine. Everything in the box ready to go. It's not a full-size drone like a 5-inch or bigger. This is just a little 3-inch toothpick, so you can, fly it around the house. Be careful, but you can fly it around the house, fly it outside around the house, really have a blast. Nobody's going to get hurt, and you're going to actually get to be an FPV pilot. Let's go. Alright pilots, so diving in, if you are about to purchase this drone and you're going to build it along with me, there's one thing you need to know. It does not come with a battery or a receiver. You are going to need to provide a receiver. Find out what type of radio that you have and what does it use. I am going to be using a FrSky X9D Plus. This is the special edition, the SE version. I do have a Crossfire module in the back that is the Micro TX V2, but we are not going to use that on this. This drone is only 70 bucks. I'm not going to put a $30 receiver into it. So if you don't know what that is, this right here is a Crossfire micro receiver. You are going to want to put in something more along the lines of this. This is an XM Plus. You can also get the XM, or you can get the FrSky RXSR. Plus, there's a load of new receivers out, like the Archer series and all kinds of stuff. So get as creative as you want, but make sure that it matches your radio. So when you throw this in your cart, make sure you throw a receiver in your cart as well, so that way you have everything that you need. All right, there's our propellers. These are 3018 bi-blade propellers. If you want to run 3-blade, feel free, but this being a 3018, that lets me know that this is a 3-inch propeller, which makes this a 3-inch quadcopter. Check this out. Look at that. So that's pretty sweet. You've got your motor, your LEDs, your connector, all on one little arm brace. This is not the actual arm. This is just a piece of PCB that is going to help you build and design your drone with ease, but also making it super awesome with LEDs. So I'm excited about that. Now, I will say there is no manual. There's not a manual at all on this guy. You do have, though, a pinout, so that way you know what you're going to need to connect things if you're going to connect outside of what I'm doing here. All right, so in the main big bag is our plate. So that is a tight fit. There it is. So there is your main body. You are going to build everything up off of this guy and keep the bag if you want to. Check this out. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is super awesome. You've got your holes to mount your motor. You've got your 3 solder pads to go ahead and solder up your motor. And then you've got 2 LEDs, of course, 2 resistors to match. And then you've got like a little 3-prong dealio here. And what this does is this allows you to solder up your motors super, super painlessly. And that is awesome. So there's 3 because it's a 3-phase motor. It is a brushless motor, a brushless quadcopter. What you'll find in your package, and this is what you should start with, is a little bit of heat shrink here. Go ahead and hold your heat shrink over this and get an idea. So here we are. We want to cover our motor wires and maybe a little bit up. So I'm going to cut somewhere around here. And we want to be uniform. So I'm going to hold that on top, just like yay. And then I'm going to cut a second one. Okay. I'm going to need a third one. And looks like I got lucky on size. Boom, dang, nailed it. So be mindful if you don't have extra heat shrink. If you cut these too long, you will end up with not enough. And we're going to slide this over the foot all the way. Boom. And then we're going to slide this just like this inside. Boom. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our motor on top, Look at this. We got a whole stackaroo going. And it's important that you follow this, because if you don't, you won't be able to get your heat shrink on. So line up your motor holes. Okay. And grab a screw for your motor. Drop that in. Make sure you got enough sticking out. So that's how you'll know which screw to use. Right now, if you don't know which screw to use, let me try to show you. See how much is sticking out? Just enough to grab the motor, but not too much that it's going to expose out the top and touch the bottom copper windings under here. See those windings? You do not want to touch those. So now I've got that lined up. I'll take my driver and I'll twist. And right now I'm not trying to lock it down with the death grip and kill it. I'm just trying to hold it in place so I can line everything else up. Now let me show you here. This is a 1.5 mm driver. And I believe we have a third hole available. You do not get a fourth hole. You really don't need it. Alright, so now that all three are on and snug, I'll flip it over, take a look. Yep, look at that. Everything looks beautiful. Alright, so I do use the Hakko FX951. This is a high-end soldering iron. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this right here. And I'm going to push out my tip. And the reason why is because I have a kit of different tips here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one that's a little bit smaller. Maybe not even this guy. How about this one? Look at that. It's got a nice little sharp tip at the end, and that will allow me to get in here much, much better than this bigger one. So if you only have a big one, you can make it work. It's not that small. But if you have the luxury of a good soldering iron with options, well, use it. So I'm going to push this in here, and then I'm going to push this in there. Make sure everything is nice and snug, and we'll kick it on. Alright, there's one pad, two pads, and three pads. I'm going to push down and solder. Alright, next up, as you can see, that's some tight soldering right there. It's not impossible, but it is a little bit challenging if you're not a very experienced solderer. Now is where the heat shrink will come into play. You'll take that, slide it over, and the idea is to not cover your LEDs, right? They gave us cool LEDs. Let's take advantage. Let's enjoy them. So what we'll do is we'll push our heat shrink back so that way we're covering the wire, right? As in the motor wires that were just freshly soldered, but we're not covering our LEDs. So we want it to look like that. That's our goal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that like that. And this does seem a little awful big, but it's what they gave us. And the reason why it does need to be a little bit bigger is because it does have to fit over the foot. Now, if you are following along or not following along and you decided, hey, I'm going to skip that step, I'll put the heat shrink on after. Well, now you've got to put it on over the motor, and good luck with that. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to grab my heat gun. Here this guy is, and I'm going to warm this up. Ooh, okay, there we go. And you want to make sure you're staying where you want it, right? So circle all the way around. Boomity boom. And so it's not super tight, right? No, it's not. But it'll serve its purpose, and that's protecting the motor wires. So heat it up real good like, and there you go. Can even give it a little, ooh, Alright, so the next step is going to be to go ahead and rinse and repeat. So what we're going to want to do now is we're going to do the same thing here, here, and here. But to not bore you to death, I'm going to go ahead and get it done, and then I'll meet you back here. Alright, pilots, looky here. So there we go. We've got all four motors on. So the next thing I want to do is I want to mount the ESC. So that involves just go ahead and dropping it down, and you can see the way the ESC is designed, we actually have prong connectors. Now how cool. Let's say later on in the future, for whatever reason, you break one of these or you break the whole drone, you can still pull this ESC out, disregard those 3 and you can run through these regular motor wire connectors right here. What I'm going to do is, in order to get this ready to mount, here's our connector jumper right there. So you should have received one big fat connector, and that's where that's going to go. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Okay. Boom, that's done. Now that will plug into our flight controller. Boom, we're done. But before we get there, let's go ahead and take our ESC, and we're going to take the capacitor that it comes with. We're going to take our positive, we're going to take our negative, and we are going to take our XT30 connector. What we'll do is we'll take our capacitor. We need to look for negative and positive. So this is the positive, that's the negative. On your capacitor, you'll have that gray line. See that right there? That lets me know that's the negative side. So I will drop negative to negative and positive to positive. Boom. So I'm going to lay that down like that so it doesn't move around on me. I'll just put a little touch of solder on the bottom. Alright. That's going to keep my capacitor from moving around. So as you can see now, super, super tight. Alright, now we fold these up. 1 and 2. Slide in with your snippies. And 1. And make sure it's not touching anything. We're going to connect positive and negative. On the side of your connector, it will actually tell you. So see how that has a little line? And that has a little plus. There you go. Now you know which is negative, which is positive. If you have something to hold it, well, use it. Why struggle if you've got something? I'll drop a little solder in. How about that? Boom. Make sure it's as straight as you can get it. That way it looks nice and clean. And then move to the other side. So for the other side, I'm going to need negative. I'll take some solder and my iron, feed it, and then we'll put this on. Now I'll take the heat shrink, I'll slide it on, I'll slide the other one on, and it did come with these, so use them. Slide those on, and then back to the heat gun. So you got to admit, so far this is pretty cool. This kit has not, you know, said, here's a connector, here's some wires, find your own heat shrink. Nope, it actually came with it. If I solder at the ends, I mean, that is a long old lead. So what we'll do is we'll hold this like maybe, I don't know, maybe something like that, right? Let's get an idea. So we'll say like that. We'll pretend that's on there. This wraps under. There you go. So that's a good length, right? And that's what this is about, is making sure that you're not cutting it too long or too short. Hold them together. Snip. Now we'll drop our ESC down, and we need to tin our actual power pads. Power pads. Now while tinning these, this is also going to add strength to our capacitor connection. So here's our negative side. Boom. And here's our positive side. Now this is a place where the entire drone gets all of its electricity. So the last thing you want to do is be a cheapskate when it comes to the solder. So put yourself a nice big fat ball and drop on your lead. So here we go. All right. And negativity. Alright, now our positive went ahead and had a little bit of overhang on it. So I can just brush that off. So take your ESC, place it on top, and then feed through those tiny little wires. But be careful that these little pins that are standing up, that you don't actually bend them or break them putting on your ESC. So you're going to watch me do it with the utmost surgical of precision. Just kidding. Here we go. Alright, so I've got all prongs in just a little bit. It is a super snug fit. When I mounted the motor, it's not like I had the option to slide the motor back or slide the motor forward. So what you get is what you got. So I think I can make it work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the flight controller over, being mindful of my placement. And then I'm going to attempt to get a screw, nut on here. There we go. So I've started one. A little rubber grommet, and this is to keep everything soft mounted. If it continues to give me a hard time, I'll just cut these a little bit smaller, which will give me more space. But you do want everything to be nice and snug. You want everything to be, you know, with soft mounting. You know, you want these things. So meanwhile, I'm trying to meet my tightness of my ESC connections. I'm also trying to make sure that this thing's going to fly okay. Alright, so fortunately I was able to get them all on, get all the nuts on. Now from the bottom I can use a driver and I can lock it down. Hold your quad like this and then look down and take a peek. Does your stack look level? Does all that look level to you? If we look at all of our connectors, this is super dummy proof because watch. No, I can't plug it in there. Can't plug it in there. Can't plug it in there. It ain't going to reach and it ain't going to fit in there. So that answers my question. Yes, it is going to get plugged in right here. We are not done with our ESC connections. We need to actually grab our soldering iron, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Come in here and find one of your connections where your ESCs are connected, and then take a little bit of solder and tin those, because if they're not connected, you're gonna have issues. Alright, so with all of our ESCs connected, we are on our way to success. Your receiver is combined up of 3 pads, most likely, unless you have a telemetry or an S port, something like that. But this is just a regular XM or XM Plus receiver. And I've got a ground, positive, and then my S bus, which is my serial-based protocol. That is how the flight controller communicates with the receiver. So where to connect that on this flight controller is actually where the TX2 is. And so we're labeled camera, VTX, and TX2. So that's this guy right here. Now, if you're curious what this is, this you can connect a buzzer, you can connect an LED, you can connect whatever you want right here. So there is more room for improvement. You can make this thing more advanced if you like to. We've also got a jumper. A jumper. Good thing I looked, because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't know. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump this pad. We'll use the center and the S bus, boom, boom, and then we would be ready. So make sure you do that. If you weren't going to, make sure you do. So I'll tag right there, boom. All right, so that's how you jump your S bus pad, just like that. If you didn't see that, let me zoom in on it. And it's that little bubble right there. I am finding out that in order to connect my receiver without lifting up this board and trying to solder underneath where the connectors are, I want to use the plug and play. That is why Darwin sent us this little valuable tool right here. So we'll double check it by going, okay, we want to plug in where the receiver is. Let's see. Boom, that's going to be money. So we're going to take that. We're going to take a power. We're going to take a yellow, which, I don't know. Make that your ground if you want to. Nope, we got a ground. Nope, nope, nope. We've got a black right here. So we're going to go red, power, yellow for S-Bus. S-Bus generally is yellow or green, so you're good there. You can use that. All right, so what I did is I soldered up my ground, positive, and S-Bus, and then I stuck the pins inside of the connector, and I plugged it in, and then I twisted the wire up. We can probably leave it connected, and we can take our VTX connector, and we'll plug this guy in. It does say VTX right there, so you don't have to hunt around for this one like you do with the receiver. I'll plug in my VTX. Now let's power on. All right, see how it went black? Oh look, there's my startup screen. Darwin FPV. Pretty sweet. Now, why is the screen black? DrainMan, what did I do wrong? You know what you did wrong? You didn't take the cap off. So pop that cap off and looky there. So what we'll do is we'll push one onto this side. Okay. And we'll push one onto this side. Okay. We want them to be the same length though. So I'm going to push up, push down. There you go. Same length. Looking good, looking strong. And boom, look at that. Looks that much cooler.